So I am outside on my porch right now, and I just finished putting together a nice wreath. So by the time you're watching this video, it'll probably have been like 2 or 3 weeks, but we got a real Christmas tree inside, and I love real trees because they smell so good. And you know, if you've ever gotten a live tree before, they usually trim some of the branches at the bottom so it can fit in your tree stand thing, base, whatever you want to call it. So they did, and then we asked if we could take a few extras so that we can make some awesome live wreaths. So I have a pile of more tree trimmings here. These are all from, I believe they were Fraser Fir, so all like Christmas trees. You could also, if you wanted to, cut some limbs off of a tree in your yard. If you do this, I would recommend that you cut off just one limb and then get all your clippings off of that one piece, because if you make several small cuts on the tree, it's more likely to get an infection and the tree could possibly die. So if you are going to cut off of a live tree from in your yard, just cut off one big branch and make all your clippings come from that one big branch, that section, instead of several small cuts. So as far as materials go, I have my live greenery, I've got a wire wreath frame, and I've also got some green floral wire. I've also have a pair of clippers to be able to trim my branches as needed. So let's jump into making our own live Christmas wreath. So I have my wreath frame here, and I have my big pile of branches. So I'm going through and I'm first of all checking that they're alive enough, because if they're already starting to die, then my wreath is not going to last very long. But you'd be surprised how long they last even without water. So I have this big branch here. This looks pretty good. Now obviously I'm not going to just strap this whole thing on, so I need to do some trimming. I like to trim branches in 2 ways. I like to first of all cut off some large sections that are really full, really long. So about like this, that I'm able to lay as my base of my wreath. And then I like to cut some sections like this one right here. This one's not particularly full, but smaller sections like this that later on I will go back and tuck in. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to cut off a bunch of sections like this and lay them on my wreath until I have a pretty good foundation. And then if I come across any pieces like this, I'll cut them off, make a pile of those over there. And then once my pieces are cut, I will start attaching them to the wreath frame. Another quick tip is sometimes the branches themselves kind of bend a certain way, so I like to put them on the wreath in the direction they bend. So this one, like all the branches are coming off to the inside, so it kind of curves it naturally around that way. So I'd probably set that branch on there about like that, because I can, as you can see, it kind of goes with the shape of the wreath frame. Alright, so if we looked at what I've trimmed so far, it is filling the wreath in pretty good, but what I will say is you always need more branches than you think you do. And as we go along and start attaching this, I personally think that the wreaths look a lot better when they are fuller versus less full. So you may want to start off by cutting up a whole bunch, or you can pause now, attach what you've got cut up, and then go back and cut some more stuff up. I'm going to cut up one more branch, and then we will move on to attaching them to our wreath frame. Now that I have all my branches trimmed, I'm going to take it all off of the wreath frame. Just make a pile of the bigger branches and the smaller branches. So I'm going to find my biggest branches and my fullest ones, and I'm going to attach those first. So I've got my floral wire here, and I would just cut some pieces off with my branch trimmers. And I'm going to actually pick my frame up, because I think it's a little easier if I have it more upright. And I'm going to come kind of towards the middle of the branch. I've tried it before where I fastened at the bottom, but what happens is they're fastened at the bottom and then the tops go like that. So I found that if I attach at the middle, it holds it in place better. So I'm just going to bend my wire in half, like so, and go around the branch. And around the metal wreath frame, and I'm just going to twist it together to hold it in place. Now I'm not going to lie, the twisting the wire part on does get a little tedious, so I'm going to start by creating a base layer, and then once the base layer is on here solidly, we'll be able to just tuck some extra pieces in without actually needing to attach every single piece by wire. But you want to make sure that you get your first branches on here really securely with the wire, so that way every time, you know, especially if your wreath's on a door, that your wreath doesn't fall apart every time the door opens. I'm going to work around and twist my branches on. This one I'll probably do 2. So I'll do one up top and then one further up here to bend it into shape more. Alright, so once you have a base layer on your wreath, as you can see, for the most part, the frame is covered up, but up here it's kind of sticking through a bit up here. But once you have it mostly covered with a pretty solid layer that's fastened securely, you can get to the point where you just start tucking pieces in. Now the trick when you tuck them in is you want to make sure that they will stay. So I usually shove them kind of through the wreath frame here. And I'll pull it, you know, back this way a little bit. I might pop it back up through just to get it securely in place. But I don't need to worry so much about attaching every single piece with wire. So I'm going to come through and find the spots that are looking gapy, and I will fill them in with tucking these bigger sections in, and then I will fill even more in with some of the smaller pieces I have. Remember, the branches are flexible, so just kind of shove them in there, get them in there securely, feed them down through the wire and then back up. Just make sure they will stay. So here we are. I have finished piecing together my wreath. Now it's looking a little crazy, like it's full, but it's also a little crazy. So in some of these sections that are sticking like way up, I can always get more floral wire and pin them down. Another option is like the one on the door. I can wrap it with some ribbon and that will kind of help hold things in place. But what I'm going to do now, before I decide how I'm going to decorate it and what details I'm going to add, I'm going to hang it up to see how it looks hanging, and then I may do some trimming. And also, this is a good idea, good chance to kind of shake and see like, okay, some of these, like this one's not in here super securely, so I know that, oh, I'll need to adjust that one. So let's hang this up. And I think hanging it up just makes it a little easier to see exactly how it's going to look. So I'll just come with my clippers and trim the stuff that's kind of every which way. I will tuck stuff in here better. Happy with how that looks. I'll probably trim it a little more, might tuck some more pieces in, but once you get to this stage, it's just a matter of deciding how you want to decorate your wreath. Again, you can wrap it in the ribbon, you could add some ornaments, add some bows, add some pine cones, however you want it to look to personalize your wreath. But once you're at this stage, your wreath is pretty much done. Thanks so much for watching my video. Make sure that if you enjoyed today's video that you leave a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit subscribe on my channel so that way you can see whenever I post a video. And also, if you want to get notified, hit the little bell beside the subscribe button so that way you know. I'd love to know what you think about this project, and I'd also love to hear what your ideas are for personalizing and decorating your wreath. So definitely leave those comments down below. But until my next video comes out, happy crafting!